Hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? I want to welcome you back to another recording of Let's Talk About It, where we're discussing our journey to better mental health. Many topics we've already discussed, but today we're going to be talking about grief. In this season that we're in, there's a lot of people who have suffered grief as a result of COVID-19 and even other natural deaths. And so today on Let's Talk About It, we're going to be discussing grief. My name is Helen Armstrong for some of you that may have not been tuning in so far. And I am your host. And so when we say the word grief, it is one of those things that mentally everyone that is of age and of an adult at this point have probably experienced some grief in your life. And when we talk about grief, we're talking about normally loss of a loved one. It's like a deep sorrow or misery or sadness, the pain or the heartbreak of losing a loved one or someone that was very close to you, that heartache, that heartbreak, the suffering that comes with it. That is what we mean by grief. And it can come in waves. Sometimes it doesn't hit that person all at once when the loss of that loved one occurs. It could come in waves. It could come all at once, almost like a ton of bricks, as they say. But it is a very, very powerful and heavy emotion that is dealt with when someone loses a loved one. And the symptoms of grief can be physically in your body, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There's so many different components to when you are experiencing grief. And it is very, very powerful emotion. There are times when it is so powerful that it may affect the person physically in their body to the point where I've known people to have heart attacks. I've known people to pass out, people to experience different things in their body that are really a response to that grief. And so there are 7 different stages that we want to talk about today that come along with grief. And the first stage is the initial shock of that loss of that loved one, the loss of that love, the disbelief proportion of it, where, it may have been a person that wasn't sick, a person that didn't have any complications, could have been an accident, as of a car accident that took that person out. And so that is the shock of that grief. Sometimes you know that a person is sick and about to pass away, and you have that time to mentally kind of prepare yourself, if that's possible at all. But a lot of times it'll come unbeknown to the person. So there's that initial shock, and it can be such a powerful blow that it could shut a person down mentally and physically. And so then you leave out of the shock stage where you enter into the denial stage. Like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this has happened to my loved one. I can't believe that this is going on. And, in that denial stage, you can begin to contemplate so many different things and go in even into the bargaining stage where, Lord, if, get spiritual with it. God, if you just bring them back, I'll be a better person. I'll quit drinking. I'll be the wife, the husband that they need me to be. God, if you just resurrect them, I'll be the parent they need me to be. I'll do whatever it takes, Lord. I'll live for you. God, just bring them back. So that's that bargaining stage of the grief process that some people are going to go through, and many people do go through. And then you may go into the guilt stage where you feel like, well, if I had just been there, if I had just did this or I had just did that, then it wouldn't have happened to them. In reality, if a lot of times we had been there, it probably still would have happened. But that's in that guilt stage when you begin to feel like you were somehow the cause of the loss of that loved one. And many times you're not. You're not. Don't allow that emotion to sit on you and have you to beat yourself up saying, I did this. Because most of the time that is not the case. That is not the case. And that's not going to bring resolution and bring that person back. So then we get to the anger stage, like, mad at everybody. And this is a very dangerous stage because in this stage, people can say things that hurt those loved ones that are still here. Because of their anger, they can speak out and say things that are damaging to relationships that they still have. And, just because they've been so mad that their loved one has passed on. And so you need to really be aware of who you are mentally when you're dealing with grief, that you don't lash out. And sometimes it's going to happen. I've seen it happen. I've been at funerals and seen family members of those loved ones that have passed over, just the mean-spirited things that they were saying, the things that they would say to those loved ones that are still here, and the way they would treat them. It's not okay. It happens. You can't rewind it, but it's not okay. It's not okay at all, because those are the people that are still here, and those are the people that are here for you. And you say, well, I was upset and I don't care. Well, eventually you will care. And if you don't, then you need to address that within yourself. Just a little bit deeper than just anger because of your grief. Okay? We have to know that our loved ones are around and they're trying to support us through what we're going through. And you are more than entitled to feeling that grief. You are more than entitled to going through what you're going through as a result of the loss of your loved one. But you are in charge of you. You have the power over you, okay? And to be able to mentally compose yourself as much as possible. Okay, so just be aware. And so that after the stage of anger, you may enter into, or that person may enter into a depression. This is a different kind of depression than your generalized depression, that a person who's dealing with, dealing with the mental capacity of depression. This is a little bit different from that. It will resemble the same, being withdrawn, isolating, excessive sleeping or can't sleep, things like that we've talked about that are components of depression. But with this depression, when you're dealing with grief, a lot of times it's going to be short-lived. Okay, it's not going to be as lengthy and drawn out as it would be if you were, or if that person were going through a generalized depression. Okay, and this again is normal. It's a normal part of the grieving process. It's a normal part of it, and so allow it to happen. Allow it to unfold. Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to go through these bargaining things. But at the same time, you have to continue to mentally, I guess we could say, keep that control to a certain point where you're not hurting yourself or hurting others, and just reminding yourself that death is a normal process, that grief is a normal process. Allow yourself to go through these things. These are the different steps of grieving, and most people that lose a loved one are going to go through every single step. And so after that depression, is going to come acceptance, and that place of hope where you say, okay, it happened. It happened. I can't reverse it. I can't bargain my way out of it. It was not my fault. It happened. I have to accept this. And not accept it and move on per se, but accept it and just know, okay, now I need to reconfigure my thought process and say, what do I need to do to go from here? Do I need to begin to handle the process of funeralizing this loved one? Do I need to begin to handle the process of handling things at home? Do I need to begin to go through the mental process of being able to move forward in a way that I'm going to help those loved ones that are left behind to be able to sustain themselves? Because that may be the place that you're in right then, where you have to be that anchor for someone else, and it's time to pull it together. And with these stages of grief, they may just start all over again. It happens. There is no timetable on the grieving process. There is no set time. Okay, it's going to start here and it's going to end there. And sometimes there's no set process, because you may lose a loved one and go straight into the anger stage. There's some rare people that will go to the grieving process and go from shock straight to acceptance. This happened. Let me figure out, how do I need to move on from here? And so if you know someone and they are experiencing the loss of a loved one, one of the ways that you can help them is to just be there. Be there and listen. Be that listening ear. Be that person that'll say, I'm here for you, and mean it. And not one of those that are digging for information and being nosy and just prodding them for, well, what happened and all the details. Just sit there. Be there. They may need a hug. They may need you to hold their hand. They might need you to come clean the house, okay? Because they may not be able to physically get up and do a whole lot of things for themselves. They may need you to come over and sweep a floor. They may need you to just be that person that's going to be the greeter when other people are showing up, and just acknowledge, yes, this did happen. They may need you to be that one to come in and pray with them. Okay, because I am a strong believer and a firm believer that prayer changes things, and that is something that is much needed. And so another thing I really wanted to bring out concerning the grief aspect is that it's not always a person who is experiencing grief that is experiencing grief because of someone that has left through the process of death. Okay, there are some people that may be experiencing grief as a result of the loss of a marriage, a relationship, a job, a career, mobility, their independence. Some of the elderly people that are no longer able to do for themselves, they may be going through that grief stage, that grief process because of the loss of these things. That relationship, that was just so loving and just so wonderful to that one person, and then for whatever reason, it broke up. That person can enter into the stages of grief because they are suffering loss. Nobody died, but at the same token, they are suffering loss. And so you can go through the denial stage, the bargaining stage, the anger stage, before you get to the acceptance. When people lose their mobility, again, I have known a person that she was very young. She was in her 30s, and she came down with, I think it was MS. It was like a muscular dystrophy type thing, and she lost her mobility. And so many times I would go and visit her, and it got to the point where she could no longer walk, and then eventually she could not use her arms and things, even to feed herself. And so I saw her go through those stages of grief, and she stayed in the anger stage for a long time. Why me? Why did this happen to me? And a lot of times when we ask those questions in those grief stages, there's no real answer. Okay? Things happen to us. Life happens to every one of us every single day in many different ways. Okay, it's how we handle it. It's how we cope, how the strategies that we put in place after these things of life begin to take place and occur that matters the most. Okay, so some coping strategies, okay, for those that are going through grief. Cry. Cry it out. Allow yourself to just cry it out as much as you need to. It is therapeutic. It is cleansing. It is a way to release built up, pent up emotions that are in you. And most people are going to cry at the loss of a loved one, at the loss of something or someone that was significant to them. Allow yourself. It's normal. Okay? Release it. Allow yourself to do that. And another technique, a coping mechanism, is deep breaths, because sometimes that deep breath is going to bring you back in where you were going so far out emotionally, and it'll help you to ground yourself all over again. Just, okay, let me breathe through this. Let me bring myself back in, okay? Sometimes just reminding yourself, okay, I need to calm myself because right now, my physical being, I feel it being affected, and I need to ground myself again. Okay, let me get some oxygen in. Calm myself as much as I possibly can. Powerful technique. A lot of people don't know, this is a sidebar, but deep breathing can also help to lose weight. Okay, so that's just a little nugget right there. Look it up, Google it. You'll see that it's true. Call a friend. You're going through that grieving process and you feel the heaviness of it and you're trying to cope through it. Get somebody that can come into your inner circle and be there with you to help you to go through that. That one person that you might need to lean on, to hold their hand, to have that hug, to sit and talk with. Call a friend, call a neighbor, call a parent, call somebody that you can reach out to. Call a pastor, call whoever you can. And talk to somebody. Go out, go shopping, take yourself out of the situation as much as possible. Go out. Shopping is always therapeutic to me. No matter what I'm going through, I can go shop it out. And grief is one of those things where I can just go and by myself and be to myself. Do something like that and just stay active. That's one of the main things. Try something new. Go and say, okay, my loved ones, they're gone on and my relationship is over. I'm going to go and start a new hobby of crocheting. I'm going to go on an adventure to the mountains by myself or take a group with me. Let's go try hiking together. Surround yourself with loved ones, people that care about you, people that can nurture you. It's very important. My grandparents passed away when I was 16 and 18. Granddaddy died when I was 16 and grandma died when I was 18. And it's been 30 years, okay? But sometimes that heaviness of that grief will still fall right back down on me because of the connection that I had with them, the love I had with them. So there's no timetable, okay? There's no timetable. Sometimes these things will revisit you, but of course, I've long got to the acceptance stage. But, now I'll do things when they cross my mind in remembrance of them, and I'll sit and I'll think about the good times. I'll think about all those biscuits Grandma made. And I think about every time I went to Grandma's house, my seat in the house was in Granddaddy's lap. I was the only granddaughter. So, yes, I was a spoiled girl. Still am. But I remember them. I remember them, and I keep them close to my heart, and I keep them in that place where nobody could ever take their place. The memories will always be there. The memories will always keep me. And I'll share those memories with my children. My children were too young. Well, I only had one child when grandma died, and I had no children when granddaddy died. But they'll never know the love of those grandparents that I had. But I'll share their memories as much as I possibly can by talking about them, talking about acknowledging them, acknowledging their existence. And so, as you are going through your grief process, just know that the Lord is with you. I always share that Jesus Christ is my saving grace. And so, my prayer for you on today is that you will talk to the Lord and pray and get past that grief stage that you're in to bring yourself to acceptance. I pray the peace of God upon you. And I know that the God that I serve is more than able to bring you through your grieving process. One scripture I guess I could share and leave with you, as I always like to, will be Luke 1:37. For with God, nothing is impossible. For with God, nothing is impossible. And so, reach out. He's only a prayer away. And just know that you are in my thoughts and prayers. And you will get through this. You will get through this. You will get through this. In Jesus' name. So, that is our discussion today. We will continue to talk about it. Continue to talk with someone about whatever you're going through and whatever's on your heart as we continue our journey to better mental health. You can reach out to us through our email at kboministries@yahoo.com. I get that wrong almost every week. I'm going to write it down for myself. But it's kboministries@yahoo.com. So until the next time, you have a great day. Thank you for stopping by.